Often said, but never heard. It really matters how you treat your laptop battery. In case you buy a used laptop computer, you should check this out. This episode gives an example and a guideline to judge about the battery health status. In this video, I will show how to analyze a MacBook battery using the system reports and how to interpret the results. I will demonstrate this with my 9-year-old MacBook Air. However, the method is universal and can be applied to any computer accordingly. In order to judge whether the results are good or bad, I will compare the results with an average lithium-ion battery's degradation. Okay, let's now take the practical example. Like on every Apple computer, you will find the version details and the construction year very quickly here. In my case, it says that I have the model from mid-2012. Since I bought it in 2013, it is in use now for 9 years. This is quite a long time for a laptop computer, isn't it? I would not try to use it for video cutting, but it still works pretty well with all my Office applications. Now we can request a system report, which is giving us a whole bunch of information. But for this analysis, we are only interested in the power supply. In the details, we can find the current state of charge and the actual remaining battery capacity. The current state of charge is 4943 mAh, and the remaining battery capacity after degradation is also 4943 milliamps. This means that the battery is fully charged at this point in time. However, the original battery capacity on day 1 was 7160 mAh, as I could find out from an aftermarket replacement kit. The lower value is due to the battery degradation that we find for my MacBook Air, which is for 9 years in use now. The remaining battery capacity corresponds to about 69%. We also find the total number of full charging cycles, which is 327 here. It is an interesting value too, because we can derive the total runtime on battery from it. On the bottom here, we find the battery voltage, which is also an interesting battery health indicator. It is currently 8305 millivolts, and it should not drop significantly in case we disconnect the charger. For the comparison, we use now the state of charge tool, which I introduced in an earlier episode. It is calibrated to the typical lithium-ion battery degradation, which depends on time and the number of charging cycles. In addition, it is considering the battery temperature. Now let us quickly calculate which battery degradation the tool predicts with our parameters given from the system report. Let's assume that the battery temperature is 32 degrees Celsius when the laptop is in operation. This gives us immediately the voltage of a lithium-ion cell when it is fully charged. The resulting 4.19 volts we insert as the actual voltage for the following computation, which gives us 100% charge as expected. Then we need to insert the battery age, which is 9 years, and the 327 charging cycles, which we got from the system report. Okay, now we get the state of charge relative to the original capacity of the battery after 9 years and after 327 cycles. Since the result corresponds to 100% charge at that time, it is equal to the remaining battery capacity. It is 63.5%. Now let us compare the facts with the prediction. We find that the actual battery health of my MacBook Air is about 5% better than we predicted with the tool. Sorry for the mistake in the bottom line here. The value for the predicted remaining capacity is actually 33.5% instead of 64.5% as given here. I think this is mainly for two reasons. First, the quality of Apple's lithium-ion batteries is probably better than the average, and second, I managed to avoid high or low temperature and deep discharge during the years. Now let's analyze the usage a bit more. On the Apple support pages, I found 7 hours battery runtime for my MacBook Air model mid-2012. We consider this as the original battery runtime. With the current battery health status of 69% capacity, I can still reach 4.8 hours battery runtime. The system report recommends to bring it to the service and replace the battery. However, for me the battery runtime is still sufficient and I want to save the money to buy the latest MacBook Air soon. I'm looking forward to the great performance and the almost endless battery runtime. Now, how could the battery survive the 9 years of usage in good shape? Well, at an average, I used my MacBook Air only about 20% of the time running on battery. From the number of charging cycles and the original battery runtime, we can calculate the total battery runtime over the years, which is 2,289 hours. This corresponds to about 5 hours battery runtime per week, and the total estimated runtime was about 25 hours per week. The insights. We learned how to derive the current battery capacity after degradation over the years and over the charging cycles. A comparison with the average battery degradation gives us immediately an indication whether the battery was treated well or not. For example, this might help you to decide whether you want to buy a used laptop or not. Using the spreadsheet tool, which you can download, you can perform further predictions for your scenarios. You can even adapt the tool, as shown in earlier episodes. The links are given below. Now, stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe and support the channel. See you soon in the coming episodes.